Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of Harlots' Spook Talk. I am your host, LD Pteloma.
And I'm Karli.
And I'm Monyeka.
Today we're diving deep into a topic that touches all of our lives in one way or another, grieving our loved ones.
That's right. Life after death is a profound mystery that many of us grapple with, especially when someone we love is suddenly torn away from us.
It's a journey filled with complex emotions, heartbreak, confusion, anger, and sometimes even a moment of unexpected joy, as we remember the lives that they lived.
In honor of our friends and family who have passed on, we're opening up the conversation about grieving process today. What happens to us when we lose someone? How do we navigate the waves of sorrow that crash over us?
We'll explore everything from the initial shock and denial to the eventual acceptance and healing. Nothing is off limits here. We want to create a safe space for those feelings and thoughts that often go unspoken.
Whether you've recently lost someone or you're still carrying the weight of grief from years past, this episode is for you. We'll share personal stories, insights from experts, and even some comforting practices that can help ease the burden.
So you grab your cozy blanket, settle in with a warm cup of tea or coffee, and join us as we navigate this delicate yet essential part of life together.
Remember, you're not alone in this journey.
Let's honor our loved ones by embracing the conversation about grief and healing.
Welcome to Harlots' Spook Talk. Let's get started. Okay, so just textbooks version. Grieving the loss of a loved one is like it's just a really deep personal experience, which I completely agree with. I want y'all to know that there's no wrong or right way to grieve. It's just crucial for you to allow yourself to feel it and go through the motions and feel the sadness, be able to express your emotions, and just be patient with yourself. Just with the whole process, really. So, if you have support from friends, family, maybe like a professional counselor, that can be valuable, definitely. And then just you want to make sure to take care of your physical and mental state. That's also essential, and yeah, so main things just like going through the emotions. There's 5 stages of grief. I can pull that up for y'all because I don't remember all of them.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I think it's really important too to tell the viewers that our family here that not stepping away from it, but actually processing the emotions. As hard as it is when they're happening, it's the best solution to getting through it. Because sometimes our natural instinct is to suppress, be calm, and be there for our family. And then that creates an emotional weight in us. So I think it's really important to know the steps that we're about to talk about, but to also understand that it is okay to cry. It is okay to be weak in emotions and feel that, because sometimes people feel like, oh, like, like I said, their natural reaction is, oh my God, I feel pain. I need to stop it. So they reel it back in. And one thing that I've learned to tell people is let it out. It's okay.
And another
Cry.
thing is, not everyone grieves the same. These steps are just an outline of what might
Yes.
happen for you, but not every person grieves the same. But the key point is you got to look at it for what it is and face it head on. Because if we bury it, it's going to resurface in a time that is the worst time to resurface. It always happens.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
got to not face it, but we got to face it.
Yes.
And and I do hate when people go, oh, you never get over it. You never, but
Yeah.
you learn to live with it. You learn to not accept it, but to live your life in a way through it, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because like you said, like everybody's different. Now there are the 5 stages. The thing with this, you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. The thing is, with grief, you can go through them over and over and over and over again. And while I see it's true, I've seen somebody go in denial and then they get mad and they're like, how do I undo this? How do I fix it? And because you can't fix it, you're now sad. And sometimes it can go in a completely different order. We've actually had grieving until still today. We're grieving, and it doesn't matter if it's like 1 year from now or 20 years from now. I remember like 12 years ago, I was like, I'm never going to get over it. I'm never going to move on. I can't imagine myself growing old without this person, And then it's like 12 years later, I'm like, oh, well, I still can't see myself old, but, know, it's like, but I think like what y'all said, like it does, you learn to live with it for sure.
Sorry, I've been on mute right now because I have a dog
No,
barking.
no,
My neighbor's dog's
it's okay.
barking really loud. So
No, you're
No,
good.
I think for me, when we talk about the 5 stages, I feel like I'm completely backwards for that because the fifth stage is acceptance, right? I think now that I'm an adult, when I was a child, it was different, but or even as a teen and a youthful person. Not that I'm not youthful now, by the way, but in my age that I'm at now, and where I'm at in my maturity level, I feel like I accept it first and then go through the steps backwards.
Yes.
You
So,
know,
and it's just like that. And then like, now we talk about all the time, like what our theories are and what happens after we pass. Like, what have we seen or heard or what is, but nobody really, and the reason for the podcast today was like, we never really talk about how we deal with it. Like, and it's not, I want to go deeper than just the 5 stages of grief, the textbook version. It's there, you need it, but it's like nobody really talks about your feelings. Like you're not a, I don't know how to explain. Like you are not allowed to feel some type of way for so amount of time. Like they had somebody I remember gave me like a plant, and they were like, okay, once this plant dies, you cannot grieve no more. And I was like, well, that's silly. you know? But it's like,
but
so what
it's
do
a
you do? When do you start eating? Like, you know what I mean?
when do you get out of bed? When do you face another day and not just go with the emotions? Like not emotions,
or
you know what
go
I mean?
or continue to be numb.
Yeah, you just go through the motions of the day until you get to the end of the day and you lay in bed and you're laying there still awake at 2 in the morning wondering why. Like, why did this happen? And trying to accept it. And then I kind of am the same way. I got to accept it before I grieve. I got to accept that it happened. Like when my dad passed, he was very young when he passed. And I had to accept it was his time. Like it was a reason he passed. And the hardest part was seeing him when we had to cover him at the end of the funeral. Us kids covered him up, and that's what he wanted. It was just a hard thing to go through. But same way, I had to accept it before I could grieve it.
That's true. I could see that happening. Like, because you're like, oh, no, no, he's fine. There's people that come to life in the morgue. Like, I was like, let's not, if we, look, this is going to sound morbid, but if we, what's the burn? Oh, gosh, I can't think of the word. Cremate. If we cremate this person,
Mm-hmm.
like, that means they will not get a breath and come back to life. But if we bury them, there's a chance that they will come back to life. Doesn't matter if it's in the freezer. And I remember thinking that, like, there's a chance that he might be awake in that freezer right now. You know what I'm saying? And once you get past that, once it's like, oh, he's really like in whatever your family decided to do or they decided to do, whatever their last wishes were, you're like, okay, they're in there waiting for the bell to ring. Like, okay, it's been 2 months, the bell hasn't rung. So what do you do?
On that subject, when you say that how the way you thought, like, if we bury this person, they still have the way I thought about it when you were saying that was I feel this is, and this, like I said, this is just us being honest with
Yeah.
each other. I saw it as like I don't really know how the body's nervous system works afterwards. So being cremated to me was very uncomfortable. And then I started to think, well, what if I'm buried alive and I'm breathing under there?
I
You know what I'm
got you
saying? We
though.
don't
I
have
will be
bells
there.
here. You
I'll
know?
be at your gravesite, just waiting for a bell to ring.
Yes. If I ring that bell, you dig
I'm
me
like,
out because that's one thing that I think I worried about when I actually thought about
That's an actual
death happening.
fear people have
yeah.
is being
Yeah.
buried alive.
Mhm.
Life, yeah, exactly. Because, like, think about it. Back in the day, a lot, that's why the bells were there.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of these cemeteries have mausoleums, or like they get cremated, or they get put in like in the ones that are like right next
Yeah.
to each other, like a mausoleum, I guess, like a big one. And so, like, I think about it like, well, if my body's going to be preserved and I'm going to be put where they're going to close it up after me, like, who's going to know if I wake up,
Yeah.
I
And I know that sounds crazy, but that's just
I
something
have
to
a
think about.
fear, and I told my husband, if I go before you, I want a flashlight, and do not bury me in the dirt. Do not bury me in the dark. I have this fear of being buried and being, I hate to say this, worms and stuff. Like, I don't want to be buried in the dirt. Like a mausoleum, fine, cool. But give me a
Yeah, I don't
flashlight.
mind a
And everybody's like,
mausoleum.
that's so stupid. I'm like, no, because what if you wake, like, no, like, what if, like, some type of consciousness is still there? And everybody's like, that's so
Hmm.
not gonna happen. I'm like, I don't care if it's not gonna happen. That's how I feel. Just give me a flashlight. Give me
Yeah.
something.
I've been contemplating too, like, I don't think I want any type of embalming fluid inside my body.
I don't.
I said I would like to be in a mausoleum. I'd like you to be able to see at least my face. Like, I will pay for the glass, whatever. I was like, I don't want embalming fluid. If I start to disintegrate, throw me in the ground. That's fine. But while I am still preserved, I don't want the embalming fluid just in case I wake up. I'm not worried about what's inside the body. You know what I mean?
I just don't want to be in the dark. I don't want to be in the dark. And I think I also think about dark as being forgotten. Like once you're in the dark, you're
Hmm.
forgotten about. I know
No,
that's
that's
not true, but it's that fear.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's just, yeah, for sure.
It's just
rational fear. Don't worry, I'll be there too. We'll put a bell in for you, and I'll wait there for
and
2
a
months.
flashlight, guys, flashlight.
I'll be like, listen, did you put one in? You didn't put one in. Now we got undo it. Bring her back up.
We'll throw you an extra one
Thank
in
you.
there
Like a
somewhere,
mag light,
just
one
in
of the big
case.
ones, mag light. We're good.
We'll put it like in
Batteries.
your, and then we'll put some tiny ones in your socks.
That works. Just make sure I have
Just in
flashlight.
case your feet get cold.
Like,
It's not
we
funny,
all
but
have a type of fear, we all
yeah.
do have it. Some of us don't like to speak
Mhm.
about it out loud, but we think about this, and, sometimes more than others, but we do think. You're on that
Yeah.
long car ride home or in that shower and everything's quiet for once or laying awake at 2 in the morning, you have these fears that go through your head, especially after you bury a loved one. It kind of
Yeah.
brings it up to the
Yes.
surface.
How
I think even after grieving those processes, and I mean, like those stages too, I didn't realize years later you could be triggered. I don't know why I didn't think about that because like my dad passed away too pretty randomly, and I did it backwards. I definitely accepted what was going on because I knew he was kind of sick, and then I thought I was fine, and then I had a dream of seeing him, and I woke up crying. So I kind of did things backwards. Well, 7 years later, remember my son and my daughter, they lost their grandpa. I lost my best friend and my dad. A couple years later, here I am, and my son's best friend just lost his grandpa. So I'm like, okay, I take my son to the funeral with his best friend. Um, my son's just being emotional support for him. And then when we're watching his grandpa be buried and put into the ground, I couldn't help but just start crying. Like I didn't understand. I didn't know that man, and it just reminded me my son lost his grandpa, and now his best friend just lost his grandpa. And then I looked up at my son where he was standing, and he was silently crying because he understood. He was like, my best friend just lost his grandpa, and I think it brought up emotions in my son
Yeah.
too. So for me, it was just remembering the burial part of it, and then knowing that this kid's never going to have a grandpa, and he's now I understand the emotion my son went through, he's about to go through. And then in the moment, I was grateful and joyful that my son could be there for him. But in this type of situation, it's one of those bittersweet things. Like, I'm grateful my son went through it so he can help his best friend get through it. But now I'm having to watch my son break for his best friend too, you know?
Like, to relive.
Years later, it still
Well, I
triggers.
got a box the other day from my stepmother, and it was a bunch of pictures from my dad and my kids growing up, the older ones when they were younger. My dad's he's been gone for a little while now, but it brought everything back up. Like, I'm sitting there bawling, looking at these pictures, and I'm like, I
Mhm.
thought I was over this, and then I had to remind myself, you don't get over it. Like, you don't
Yeah.
truly will ever get over a loss like that. You learn. You know what I mean? And I just had to remind myself, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be
Yeah, for
that
sure.
moment in time. Like, you needed that cry or go out and scream. You need that. Like, you need that
Yeah.
release.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You got to do what you got to do. I have a question for y'all. When when you were
What's up?
grieving, when y'all were going through, someone that passed away, how long did it take before you fell asleep?
Oh,
For me, because I was going back and forth in between two towns that were like 3 hours away from each other, I was very tired. I mean, I was actually extra sleepy from having to go from my house in the morning with all my 5 kids, and they were young at that time, going 3 hours, handling the business, coming back, going back, so back and forth. I was really, really tired. But I remember one day specifically. My daughter was, I want to say, 13, and my oldest daughter was 13. All my kids were in bed, and I was just mentally exhausted, and I could have probably smoked a cigarette in a damn hot tub, but I don't smoke cigarettes. So I was like, I'm gonna take a hot bath. So I turned the bath on, got my bubbles in there, anything I could put in there to relax my muscles because I was just ripping and running, back and forth. And I was like, okay. I told my daughter because she's the only one who couldn't sleep. I was like, look, I'm gonna take a bath. I'm really tired, but come check on me in case I fall asleep. Well, sure enough, I got in the bath. I was just mentally exhausted, and I was just like, I remember closing my eyes to just pray, like, God, get me through this because it's so crazy right
Yeah.
now. And then I'm having 5 little kids behind me, or 4 little kids behind me, and my daughter. I didn't have none of my kids' dad's help or anything. So I just remember closing my eyes to pray and just ask God to get me through it. And then waking up to my daughter reading a book outside my tub. And then I'm cold because my water's cold. So I'm like,
How long was I out for?
yeah, I was like, "Nevaeh, have I been asleep?" She goes, "Yeah, mom, but you were so tired, I just let you rest." I was like, "My water's cold, like, I must have been in here. How long have I been here?" She's like, "An hour, hour and a half." I'm like, "Nevaeh, you could have let me die from hypothermia." She's like, "I didn't know the water got cold when I got here, it was hot, I was just
Yeah.
reading." So I get out and everything, and I'm just like, "Oh my god." So for me, I think I was just overly exhausted
Yeah.
in my personal experience. Sometimes I get more exhausted, but I definitely have insomnia on a daily
Yeah.
basis, but I guess during my grieving time, my body like literally shuts myself down. It's like, you need to
Yeah.
rest.
I had to travel from New York back down to Pennsylvania for my dad's funeral. And at that time, my two older boys were actually transferring to their dad's house down there, like his cousin's house. So I was actually given custody up at that time because I was emotional wreck of my two older boys. They kept fighting. I couldn't. They were 16 and 15. They needed their father for
Oh, I
once.
get that.
It was that time.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
for
that
sure.
time that it was their dad's time to learn who they were, them to, vice versa. So, and
Yeah,
he
yeah, for
passed
sure.
in the midst of that. So I was dealing with so much emotional turmoil that I would sleep on a dime. And
Mm.
that's how I am. If I'm emotional drained, I sleep. But yet again, I have insomnia most nights. So it was weird, but I don't really remember too much of that time. That week that it happened and everything, I can honestly sit here and tell you I don't remember too much of it. I think my brain probably just shut down. I know I had a nervous like kind of attack going on, but I remembered the funeral and we had a celebration of life. We don't do weeks after we have a
Mhm.
celebration of like to celebrate his life with family, friends. We have everybody brings a dish. We have like a family gathering. And I remember that,
Yeah.
like I have pictures of that.
Mhm.
But other than that, to tell you the truth, the following that week after, I don't remember. Like, I don't know if I finally shut down after that, like, losing him, losing the boys all in one
Mhm.
swoop. And it wasn't losing my kids because I still talk to them every
Yeah,
day.
for sure.
It was just that
In the
time,
moment.
it was in that
Mhm.
moment, it was like I felt like I was losing them because I raised them. I
It's
was,
like losing everything.
15, 16 years.
Life
Yeah, it
feel
was. I still had the younger kids,
Yeah.
but I was losing my
it was
my
like the
older ones,
lowest,
and
Time to let go, and it's kinda like you're going through the letting go
it was
process and
hard.
then that grieving process at the same time.
Yes,
It kinda just all piled up.
that's a lot.
it did. It really did. It took a toll on my marriage, not gonna lie. My marriage actually broke down for a little right after that. We're still together, but we worked that out, I think. I think. I'm pretty sure we did. But, it actually took a toll. My dad's death did take a toll on my marriage. I wasn't opening up. I shut down big time. I was angry all the time. I didn't want nobody touching me. I didn't wanna get close to nobody anymore. My youngest son was maybe 4 months old at this time, so I also had the postpartum going on. I was kind of older to have my last kid. Like, my oldest is 16 years apart. Like,
Oh wow.
that's how big of a
Yeah,
difference
yeah.
there are. So, I was going through a lot of turmoil with myself too. Like, was this my fault? I wasn't there when he passed. I was up in New York, he was in PA. Um, it was just I don't know how to explain it, but when you get to that point in life, the worst thing you could have done is what I did. Do not push people away. I beg you. Like, don't do what I did, kind of thing. Like I did. I almost ruined my marriage. I almost pushed my kids out of my life. Like I didn't see the blessings for what they were in front of me at that time
Mm.
because I couldn't. And I tell everybody if you're struggling that hard, seek help. Like, let's be honest, seek the help. Talk to somebody, even if it's a friend, a pastor, a preacher, anybody, priest, anybody who's close to you and
Yeah.
you trust. Speak. People ain't there to judge you all the time, believe it or not. But don't let
Mm.
this grief ruin what's still in life for you, type of thing.
Yeah,
I
for
learned
me,
that hard.
like I have really bad insomnia. Um, but so I was already like up 2, 3 days at a time, some days. And then um but then it was like going through that, I don't know. I really think it was a week, but it was forever. I know couple days. I'm gonna say that at very minimum. But I remember when I did get to sleep, I had a dream about them in the front yard, and I was like, and then after that, I was like, okay, if I sleep, I'm gonna keep having dreams. So I just kept trying to
Trying to stay
sleep
awake.
through it,
Yeah.
and I was like, that was my favorite part. And not long after that, I met Monica.
Yeah,
Not long
right.
after
She's
that.
right. Yeah. Her kids were so small and young when I met her.
Yeah. Now they're all big and mean. If you see me shutting off my camera, that's my teenager.
I was thinking too when I met Mary, she was grieving her fiance, and the two other women that were around us at that time were also grieving their husbands. I was the only one in the house who hadn't even been married yet, and the three women that I met were all grieving their husbands.
Well,
Mary,
I wasn't married, but
no,
you
but that
know,
was your fiance. Yeah, it was.
yeah.
They were going to get married. We had Kai. Kai was married to her husband. They were both in the military, and
Mhm.
um, he passed away, and he left her with four kids, two boys and a girl, three kids, right? Two boys and a girl.
Yep.
And then we had
We're not
the
can't
other,
say her name, but
yeah, the other woman.
we'll
She
call
had
her
one.
Blondie.
Yeah, Blondie was. She had one kid, but she had a severe situation with her husband where he passed away in front of her, and she tried to revive him, and she couldn't bring him back. And so I found that, I guess, years later, I thought about it and I was like, wow, I was the only one not grieving at that time. A husband, I didn't even have one. I was still like searching, to find my right partner, but I didn't realize that that's what was going on. And at that time of our life when I met Mary, the other two women were also grieving. So I had three women grieving their husbands, and in all different ways. Mary was very quiet about it. Kai was very out there about her emotions and how she was unsettled about it, and um,
Oh, I mean, the women were like, "Oh, you
Blondie was
were just."
like just
They were. Sorry, go ahead.
Blondie was just a hot mess.
Well, it
A
was like
hot mess.
they were like, "You don't know because you are not married." So it was like, "What am I
Yeah,
gonna say?" Like, "You are
and,
grieving
like, they
worse. You're
invalidated her
right.
feelings, and I'm like,
You."
that was her fiance, like,
Yeah, that's still your life partner at that point.
this was her eternity partner, and she lost
Yeah.
him before she
Not
even
to
got to
be
be
an
married.
asshole about it, but if I'm just gonna say it, like, we were more in love than Blondie, okay? Like,
You don't
we
Yeah,
have to be married to have your life partner
yeah,
yeah,
you
come
can
into
get
your life.
married just to be like, because
I
one
think when
5
people get
into your
married,
life.
sometimes they like to not
Exactly.
give value to people who aren't, but I still feel like, if you love that person, that's who your person is, and that's your life partner, and you know that that's between you two. But I do see that a lot too in other areas of life. Like, oh, do you have receipts? Do you have a high school diploma? Do you have this? Do you have this type of degree? And for some reason, that happens with licenses too. I am a hairstylist. Well, are you a cosmetologist or are you a barber? I'm a pastor. Well, are you a minister or are you a pastor? And I'm like, really? They want
Listen
receipts. You know what I'm
here,
saying?
mind
Yeah.
your business.
Yes,
That's the thing.
I really feel that way too about marriage.
A license does not make you more qualified, and a degree does not make you more qualified.
Yes, I
And
agree.
life experience, and especially with love,
Mhm.
um, if you love that person with everything in your soul and you lose that part of you, it's gonna take a long time. And it does not matter if you had a ring on your hand or not. It's the same
Yeah.
loss. You lost
Yeah.
your
Mhm.
partner, you know?
Partner.
I never got that either. Like, what does that make it different?
Yeah,
Why
and
is
that's
that
well,
different?
I feel like the people who understand it are the people who don't are the people who know truly what it was to have a partner, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's like
was
it goes the same thing for like y'all, y'all lost a parent. I've not lost,
Mhm.
so I don't like I can't pretend to understand because mine are still here.
Yeah,
Pain
you're
in
still yeah.
my ass, but they're here. But you know what I mean?
I still remember his number. Like, I still wanna
Uh-huh.
call it sometimes, have him pick up, like, and that's one thing I struggled with. I don't know if anybody else struggled with this, even if it any type of loved one, picking up that phone and just staring at it, like, if I dial that number, will that person pick up? Or
Mm,
calling and listen, remember when we had answer machines?
Mhm.
Listening to
Yeah.
that
I
voice
used to call
or
when my dad passed away,
yeah,
I called his phone like once a
yeah,
day for like 2 weeks, and then
it's the
my
voice.
mother-in-law cut his phone off. And that number he had since cell phones had really first came out. It went from Pinky's Mobile to Sprint, from Sprint to T-Mobile, and then he went to I think Verizon, and that's where it stayed for like 7 years.
and
So,
that's I remember like calling Justin's phone. Like I would use the house phone because it had the number on it. I remember doing this like months and months after. By the time, and I was like, "Oh, the number's still on my mom's house phone." So I
yeah.
called that, and then the worst part, because every time I had called it before, it would just ring and go the standard voicemail. Because what he had done is he had, by this time we had the flat screens. This was regular little like phones, and but back then he had something happened to that regular phone. He got a new phone, and he went back to the flip phone, and he thought he was so cool. He was like, "Yeah, I got a flip phone. I only got like 10 numbers in here. Or was it 3 or 10? I don't know. He didn't have very many." And it's like, "Yeah, so like I'm cool, And I'm like, "Oh, whatever." But I called it like months later, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I wonder if it's voicemail, if they're still paying the phone." And
Mhm.
it was some lady's voicemail, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
I'm melting all over again." I just stayed up thinking about that. Does this lady know that she has his number? How dare she?
How
How
dare she take
dare,
that number?
how dare the phone company reassign them for money? Is this just about money? You,
and that's the
Yeah.
thing, you don't think about them little things as they're happening until you
Mhm.
one day sit back and you're like, "Oh, wait, I did do that. I did call that number," or
Mhm.
I did have that dream, and I did over wanna sleep like, I wanted to connect in any way, shape, and form. Like,
Yes.
there is no magical bridge that you get to climb and go over and give them a hug again. So you gotta
Mhm.
hold that as any which way you can.
Yes, exactly. But we are running out of time today. We are so excited to bring you our next episodes coming up We have near-death experiences with Ani and David coming up. We also have Haunted Africa, Around the World Hauntings, Haunted Africa. So I hope y'all all have a wonderful. Well, actually, by Africa will be on here by the time you listen to this. So go back and listen to
Yeah,
that one because that one's gonna be cool.
definitely.
But anyways, hope you have a good night.
And be kind, share, subscribe, please, and blessed be.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
We rise not by blood alone, but by the trials we've endured. The code we live by is carved in the scars of battle, etched deep in the digital storm. Through the gates of endless flame, where the trolls all seek to maim. Standing tall we bear our shields, cause in Valhalla we never yield. Their arrows fall like endless rain. We walk through the storm of pain. For juggalos we never bend. The fight for truth will never end. Warriors online, we ride hand in hand, side by side. No algorithm can define the spirit of those who won't divide. Valhalla's code in every blow. Through the screens the truth will show. We fight, we rise, our battle cry. In Valhalla's halls we'll never die. They hide behind their faceless masks, thinking that they own the past. But our axes swing with justice clear as we cut through lies and fear. No throne awaits the coward's reign. No victory for those with shame. For those who stand in Valhalla's grace are those who fought to claim their place. Blood runs through the wires like rivers to the sea. Their lies, their hate can't drown what's free. The code is not in numbers, but in the hearts we hold. This jug of Viking bond stronger than gold. Valhalla's code, our guide, our light. Through endless darkness we still fight. No cowards throne, no trolls crown. In the halls we hold. This jug of Viking bond stronger than gold. Valhalla's code, our guide, our light. Through endless darkness we still fight. No cowards throne, no trolls crown. In the halls we hold, in the halls we'll never die. They hide behind their faceless wrong. United in battle, we'll carry on. For Valhalla calls, and we answer the roar. The jug of Vikings rise forevermore.